Imagine lying in your bed at night, your body exhausted from the day's demands, but your mind is anything but calm. You've been burning the candle at both ends for months, even years. No amount of sleep seems to bring relief. The moment your head hits the pillow, the weight of unspoken anxieties, unprocessed emotions, and unmet expectations floods your mind. Your chest feels tight, as if an invisible force is pushing against your ribs, and no matter how deeply you try to breathe, the pressure won't ease. The worst part, you don't even know why you're so tired. You've been told that a good rest, a vacation, or simply ticking off your to-do list will heal you, but they haven't. And it feels like no one really understands the depth of this exhaustion, not even you. But what if I told you this is not just a result of overwork or stress? What if this was a warning sign, one that you've been ignoring for far too long? You see, emotional burnout isn't a flaw in your character. It's a disconnect, a warning from within, telling you that something in your life is out of alignment. The real cause of your exhaustion isn't physical. It's something deeper. Something rooted in the way you've been living, in the way you've been forcing yourself to be everything to everyone. Tonight, we are going to uncover the truth behind this exhaustion, what's actually causing the emotional burnout, and how Buddhism can help you find peace again. Stay with me until the end, and I promise you, you will discover how to release the weight of your emotional exhaustion and come back to a state of balance you thought was lost forever. But first, if you're ready to take the first step toward healing, don't forget to subscribe to Buddhism in every moment. Your support gives us the motivation to create more content that brings you peace, wisdom, and practical tools for living a more mindful and fulfilling life. You wake up, the sun's rays softly slipping through your curtains, and yet there it is again, a feeling of exhaustion that refuses to let go. The kind that lingers even after 8 hours of sleep. You had promised yourself that today would be different, that you would push through and tackle the day with a sense of purpose and vigor. But the heaviness on your chest refuses to budge. No matter how many cups of coffee you drink, no matter how many distractions you find, it persists. It's the silent weight of burnout creeping into your life, and you don't even realize how it's slowly draining you until it feels like it's too late. Burnout doesn't show up with loud alarms or glaring red lights. It sneaks in quietly, like a shadow that grows darker as the day wears on. At first, you barely notice. A little more tired than usual, perhaps a bit more irritable, but nothing that you can't brush off. You tell yourself it's just a phase, a tough week at work, the family commitments piling up, the constant juggling of responsibilities. But soon those little signs begin to multiply. Your joy seems to slip further away with each passing day. Things that used to make you smile now feel like distant memories, like you're observing your life from a place outside yourself. You wake up feeling tired, and as the day drags on, you find yourself wishing for a break. A moment to breathe. But no matter how many breaks you take, it's never enough. Your body craves sleep, but when you lie down at night, your mind races, replaying the day's events and tomorrow's concerns. You toss and turn, feeling restless, even in the safety of your own bed. It's as if no amount of sleep can undo the emotional exhaustion that you carry inside. You feel like you're suffocating under the weight of everything: family expectations, career pressures, the constant need to perform and prove your worth. But you don't have the energy to meet those expectations anymore. Even the smallest task feels monumental. It's as if your emotional reserves have been completely drained, and no matter how much you rest, it never feels like it's enough. You can sleep for hours, yet still feel like you're walking through each day in a fog. It's this quiet exhaustion that makes you feel like a shell of your former self, physically present, but emotionally distant. This is emotional burnout. It's not just about being tired, it's about feeling disconnected. The things that once brought you joy no longer do. The passion you once had for your work, your relationships, and your life has evaporated. Instead, there's just a lingering emptiness, an overwhelming sense of being worn out without knowing exactly why. You start searching for a solution, grasping at anything that promises relief. You try taking a day off work. You go on a vacation. You immerse yourself in bubble baths and spa treatments, hoping to unwind. But none of it works. The burnout is still there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting to drag you back in. It's as though these quick fixes are nothing more than temporary distractions from a much deeper issue. The misdirection of conventional solutions. Vacations, bubble baths, and an endless list of self-care activities have become go-to solutions for those seeking relief from burnout. We've all heard the advice: take time for yourself, go for a walk, have a relaxing bath. And while these moments of relaxation can offer a brief respite, they do little to address the root of the problem. Sure, they might help you unwind for a moment, but the deep-seated exhaustion and emotional weariness remain untouched. The weight on your chest doesn't go away. Your soul still feels heavy, as if something inside you is slowly dying, even if no one can see it. This is the lie that society feeds us, that we can fix burnout by simply stepping away from it. But true healing doesn't happen in moments of escape. It doesn't come from adding more to your list of distractions. True healing begins with unlearning the beliefs, behaviors, and thought patterns that have been contributing to your burnout. It begins with undoing the systems you've built around productivity, performance, and external validation. It's about reconnecting with your true self, your essence, without the need to prove your worth to the world. Buddhism offers us a different perspective, one that doesn't rely on temporary solutions. It encourages us to look within and ask ourselves the hard questions. What is it that's draining us? What are we holding onto that no longer serves us? Instead of running away from burnout, Buddhism teaches us to face it head-on and to understand the root causes of our suffering. It asks us to reconnect with inner peace, not through external distractions, but by undoing the patterns and attachments that have caused us to become disconnected in the first place. In Buddhist teachings, the concept of unlearning is fundamental. It's not just about taking a break. It's about rethinking everything we've been taught about success, rest, and happiness. It's about shedding the layers of stress and expectation that we've accumulated over time and finding peace in the space we've created by doing less, not more. True healing doesn't come from doing, it comes from being. And that in itself is a radical shift. A shift that starts with reconnecting to who we really are underneath all the roles, responsibilities, and expectations. It begins when we stop seeing burnout as something to be fixed and instead start seeing it as an invitation to slow down, breathe, and return to ourselves. The road to inner peace is not a simple one. It is filled with obstacles, many of which go unnoticed until they begin to weigh us down. These obstacles, often subtle and insidious, are referred to in Buddhism as the 5 hindrances. They are the mental and emotional habits that prevent us from experiencing true peace, pulling us away from stillness and into the chaotic cycles of craving, resentment, exhaustion, and doubt. These hindrances are not flaws in our character. They are simply patterns of the mind that we have adopted over time, many of which we don't even realize we're holding on to. Understanding and overcoming these hindrances is key to finding peace within ourselves, and it begins with recognizing them for what they are. We must learn to unlearn the habits that have kept us stuck, to let go of the patterns that have only led to further frustration and burnout. It's not just about stopping these habits, it's about changing the way we relate to them. Sensual desire and craving, the illusion of external comfort. At the core of emotional burnout lies an overwhelming sense of craving. It is a hunger that cannot be satisfied, no matter how much we indulge. When we think of craving, we often imagine lust or a desire for physical pleasure, but in Buddhism, craving is much broader than that. Sensual desire is not just about sex or indulgence in luxury. It is about a constant yearning for external comforts to fill an internal emptiness. Think about it. The endless scrolling on social media, the impulsive shopping sprees, or even the way we consume food, not because we're hungry, but because it provides a temporary sense of satisfaction. In moments of deep fatigue, we may crave instant gratification, anything that can take our mind off the discomfort we feel. This craving becomes a form of escape, a distraction from the underlying exhaustion and emotional turmoil. We distract ourselves with superficial comforts, hoping they will bring us peace, but they only offer a fleeting illusion of it. This craving, though seemingly innocent, often feeds into a cycle of dissatisfaction. We reach for something, whether it's a new pair of shoes or another episode of our favorite show, only to realize that the satisfaction we gained from it fades away quickly, leaving us with the same empty feeling we had before. The craving grows stronger, and before we know it, we are trapped in a loop of trying to satisfy an insatiable hunger. Life lesson. The key to breaking this cycle lies in mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to recognize that the craving is not the solution to our inner emptiness. It teaches us to be present with the discomfort we are trying to avoid, rather than masking it with external distractions. Instead of reaching for the next quick fix, mindfulness encourages us to sit with our cravings, observe them without judgment, and breathe through them. By acknowledging the craving without acting on it, we begin to separate our sense of self from the endless desire for more. This awareness creates the space needed to find true peace, one that is not dependent on the fleeting satisfaction of external comforts. Ill will and resentment, the heavy weight of unprocessed pain. One of the most destructive emotions that prevents us from finding peace is ill will. It manifests not only as outward anger but as a quiet, simmering resentment. It is the bitterness that builds up over time from unresolved hurt, disappointments, or perceived injustices. Often we tell ourselves we have let go of the past, but deep down we hold onto those moments of pain. We've all been there, irritated by something someone said or resentful of the unfairness of life. This feeling doesn't always look like rage or shouting. Sometimes it's a quiet tension in the shoulders, a tightening in the jaw, or an uncomfortable feeling in our stomach. This resentment might come out as impatience with a loved one, snapping at someone who didn't deserve it, or even holding grudges that affect how we see people. In every case, resentment builds a wall between us and others, between us and our own peace. Real-life connection. Imagine a situation where you're working long hours and feeling neglected by a friend or partner who doesn't seem to appreciate the effort you're putting in. Over time, this unacknowledged pain begins to turn into resentment. You begin to judge them for their lack of support, becoming more and more irritated by their actions. And eventually, that irritation starts to cloud your interactions, even if they never intended to hurt you. This is how unprocessed pain becomes ill will. Buddhism teaches us to meet ill will with compassion, not just toward others but toward ourselves as well. When we hold onto resentment, we carry the burden of those past hurts and they drain our energy. We become attached to the stories we tell ourselves about the past, and that attachment keeps us trapped in cycles of negative emotions. Life lesson. The practice of compassion, or metta, is the antidote to ill will. By practicing loving kindness, we start to soften the harshness in our hearts. We learn to forgive not because we condone what was done to us, but because we choose to release the grip of resentment for our own peace. Compassion toward ourselves allows us to heal the wounds that ill will has caused, and over time, we begin to break the chains that keep us tied to the past. When we forgive and soften, we create space for healing and true freedom. Sloth and the weight of exhaustion, honoring the need for rest. Sloth is one of the least understood of the 5 hindrances. It is often mistaken for laziness, but it is far deeper than that. Sloth manifests as an overwhelming, deep fatigue that makes it hard to get up even when we know we should. It is not simply a lack of motivation or willpower. It is a state of depletion, where the body and mind have been drained by continuous stress and emotional exertion. Many of us have experienced it, those days when even the thought of getting out of bed feels like too much. The weight of the world is so heavy that we can't summon the energy to take the first step. It's not that we don't care. It's that we've given so much of ourselves that we've forgotten how to simply be. Life lesson. In the modern world, we are taught that pushing through exhaustion is a sign of strength. We are encouraged to grind and hustle, to keep going no matter the cost. But Buddhism offers a different perspective. Sloth is not an enemy to be fought. It is a signal that we need rest. It is a message from our body and mind that we cannot continue to give without replenishing ourselves. The act of acknowledging sloth, of giving ourselves permission to rest, is the first step toward healing. Pushing through sloth often leads to deeper burnout. However, when we listen to the need for rest without guilt or shame, we allow our bodies and minds to recover. Rest is not a luxury. It is essential to our well-being. Mindfulness practices can help us honor this need for rest. Instead of pushing through exhaustion, we can take a moment to breathe, to be still, and to let go of the constant urge to do more. When we stop resisting rest, we find the energy and clarity that sloth once took away. In doing so, we give ourselves permission to rest, not because we've earned it, but because it is necessary for our healing. The 5 hindrances are the quiet obstacles that keep us from experiencing true peace. They are not permanent, but they are persistent, and they can only be overcome when we begin to notice them and relate to them differently. In mindfulness, we don't force ourselves to change these patterns. We simply observe them, understand their roots, and allow them to lose their grip over us. By practicing mindfulness and compassion, we can undo the habits of craving, ill will, and sloth, and move toward a life of peace, freedom, and balance. In doing so, we learn that the path to peace is not about eliminating discomfort, but about learning to meet it with awareness and presence. Through this practice, we stop identifying with these hindrances as part of who we are. We are not our cravings, our anger, or our exhaustion. We are the space in which these emotions arise and dissolve, and that space is where true peace resides. In a world constantly demanding more from us, the feeling of restlessness has become the norm. We are taught to be perpetually active, always moving, always striving. But beneath the surface of this frenetic activity lies a deep sense of unease, a mental turmoil that refuses to let us rest even when we physically stop. Restlessness is not just about being physically busy or anxious. It is the subtle, relentless need to control the uncontrollable, to seek certainty in a world that is, by nature, uncertain. Restlessness manifests as the inability to sit still, the constant shift in our focus from one task to the next, the ever-present hum of worries and anxieties that follow us throughout the day. It feels like a fire that keeps burning, even when you've tried everything to put it out. It's that feeling of your mind racing, leaping from one thought to another without pause, leaving no space to simply be. At its core, restlessness is an attempt to manage the chaos within and around us, but it only leads to more chaos, more disconnection, and more exhaustion. Emotional insight. We've all experienced it, lying in bed at night, the darkness around us offering no escape from the noise in our minds. Thoughts swirl like a storm, pushing us to solve problems we can't fix at that moment, to prepare for the next day's challenges that haven't even arrived yet. This constant mental chatter isn't merely a natural byproduct of our busy lives. It is the mind's desperate attempt to control the uncertainty of life. We fear the unknown, and in our efforts to avoid it, we create an endless loop of overthinking. We overanalyze past interactions, rehash old arguments, and obsess over potential future scenarios that haven't happened yet, and might never happen at all. This cycle of overthinking is not just mentally exhausting. It robs us of the peace we crave. We become so consumed by the noise that we forget to listen to what's happening in the present moment. We become detached from the peace that lies within us, a peace that is always available but often drowned out by the endless waves of mental activity. In our desire to control every outcome, we are overwhelmed by the very thing we wish to avoid: uncertainty. The paradox is that by resisting uncertainty, we give it more power over us. The more we try to control, the more we feel out of control. The more we chase clarity, the more we are lost in confusion. But there is another way. It lies in the practice of mindfulness, in the art of being present, fully immersed in the now without the need to control or judge. Mindfulness offers us the key to stillness amidst the chaos, the ability to observe our thoughts without being consumed by them. It teaches us that we are not our thoughts, not the mental noise that clutters our minds. We are the observer of those thoughts, the space in which they arise and dissolve. Buddhist approach. The Buddhist approach to restlessness and overthinking begins with meditation. Meditation is not about emptying the mind or forcing it to stop. It is about noticing the noise without getting lost in it. It's about observing the thoughts as they come and go, without attachment or judgment. Meditation helps us recognize the futility of trying to control every thought and feeling. It shows us that we don't have to chase every thought, worry about every possibility, or solve every problem immediately. When we sit in meditation, we learn to be still in the midst of turmoil. We create a space within ourselves, a space where we can rest without needing to fix anything. Over time, this practice of mindfulness helps us develop a profound sense of peace that is independent of external circumstances. We realize that peace does not come from controlling our environment or silencing our thoughts. It comes from the ability to simply be with whatever is arising in the moment without fear, without resistance. This peace isn't fleeting or conditional. It is always there, waiting for us to return to it. And the more we practice being present, the more we can bring this stillness into our everyday lives. In moments of stress, we can pause and simply breathe. In moments of doubt, we can acknowledge the uncertainty without letting it consume us. Through meditation, we reclaim our ability to choose our response, to step back from the chaos and find grounding in the present moment. Doubt and self-questioning, the energy drain of uncertainty. While restlessness keeps us frantically moving, doubt traps us in a paralyzing cycle of indecision and insecurity. Doubt is the quiet whisper that tells us we're not enough, that we can't trust ourselves, that every decision we make is the wrong one. It creeps into every aspect of our lives, from our careers to our relationships, and leaves us questioning our every move. The longer we let doubt take root, the more it drains our energy, robbing us of our clarity and sense of purpose. Doubt is insidious. It doesn't shout or demand attention. It quietly undermines our confidence, making us second-guess everything we do. It manifests in the form of questions like, am I on the right path? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? These questions, while natural, begin to erode our ability to move forward. We become stuck in a loop of overanalyzing every choice, every step, paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision. The power of doubt lies in its ability to convince us that we are not capable of handling the uncertainty of life. It tells us that we must have all the answers, that we must always know the right way to go, or else we will fail. This mindset not only drains us emotionally, but also stifles our growth. It keeps us from taking risks, from exploring new opportunities, and from trusting ourselves. Inspirational message. But here's the truth. Doubt is not an obstacle, it is an invitation. It invites us to step into the unknown, to trust in our ability to navigate uncertainty. Doubt is a natural part of the human experience, but it doesn't define us. It is simply a thought, a passing cloud in the sky of our minds. When we learn to see doubt for what it is, just a thought, we can begin to release its grip on us. The key to overcoming doubt is to cultivate self-trust. Trust in the process, trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way, and trust that you are exactly where you need to be, even if you can't see the whole path ahead. Buddhism teaches us that we don't need to have all the answers right now. We don't need to know everything about the future. What matters is that we show up, take one step at a time, and trust ourselves to handle what comes next. I remember a time in my life when doubt consumed me. I was unsure of every decision I made, paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake. But over time, I learned that growth doesn't come from certainty. It comes from taking action in the face of uncertainty. I stopped waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect answer, and I started trusting myself to make the best choice with the information I had at that time. With consistent practice, I began to see that each step I took, no matter how small, built my confidence. Every time I faced doubt and moved through it, I proved to myself that I could handle life's uncertainties. It wasn't always easy, and there were many moments of self-doubt along the way, but by continuing to move forward, I discovered something powerful. Doubt loses its power when we stop giving it our energy. Doubt isn't something to avoid or suppress. It's something to be acknowledged and moved through. It's a natural part of life's journey, but it doesn't have to hold us back. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can create the space to observe doubt without being consumed by it. By taking action despite uncertainty, we begin to cultivate a deeper trust in ourselves, one that doesn't require perfection or guarantees, but simply a belief in our ability to navigate the unknown. Finding stillness amid the chaos is about learning to meet the storm of restlessness, doubt, and overthinking with calm and presence. It's about realizing that peace is not a destination, but a practice, one that requires us to stop seeking control and start embracing the flow of life. In learning to be still amid the chaos, we discover that the world doesn't need to be fixed for us to find peace. The chaos will always be there, but our response to it doesn't have to be. By trusting ourselves and practicing mindfulness, we can navigate even the most turbulent times with grace and clarity. In the midst of burnout, when everything feels overwhelming and nothing seems to bring relief, there is a simple yet profound practice that has the power to heal not just the exhaustion of the body, but the very soul. This practice is called metta, or loving-kindness meditation, and it is one of the most transformative tools in Buddhism for restoring emotional balance and inner peace. Loving-kindness, at its core, is the practice of offering compassion and goodwill, not just to others, but to ourselves as well. It is about consciously and intentionally shifting our energy from self-criticism, judgment, and the constant pursuit of perfection to a place of deep, unconditional love and acceptance. In moments of emotional burnout, when it feels like we've given all we have to others and have nothing left for ourselves, metta becomes the sanctuary we so desperately need. Loving kindness meditation. Imagine yourself sitting in a quiet space, your body gently at rest and your mind softly focused on the present moment. As you close your eyes, take a deep breath in, allowing the air to fill your lungs, and exhale slowly, releasing the weight of the day. In this moment, you are safe. You are here not to fix anything, not to push through the discomfort, but simply to be. This is where the practice of loving kindness begins. Loving kindness meditation, or metta, starts with yourself. You begin by silently repeating simple phrases, not as a mantra but as an offering of love to your heart. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be at ease. These phrases may seem simple, even trivial, but they are powerful in their simplicity. With each repetition, you are softening the hardened places inside, tenderly reminding yourself that you are deserving of love and care, even in your most exhausted, drained state. The beauty of metta is that it requires nothing from us but the willingness to offer kindness, first to ourselves and then to others. As you repeat these phrases, you are not just speaking words, you are reprogramming your nervous system. You are telling your body that it is okay to rest, that it is okay to be at ease. You are signaling to your mind that it doesn't need to keep running on empty, that it can find peace in this very moment. Metta works as a balm for the soul. When you repeat phrases like "May I be happy," your body begins to relax, the tightness in your chest softens, and a sense of comfort slowly begins to wash over you. The harshness of self-judgment and the need to constantly perform melt away, replaced by a profound sense of peace and acceptance. This is not a magic trick, nor a fleeting moment of relief. It is a process of healing, one that you can return to time and time again, whenever you feel your energy drain and your spirit falter. Through the repetition of loving phrases, you reset your emotional and physical state. Your nervous system, which has been locked in the fight or flight response for so long, begins to shift. Your body starts to recognize that it can relax, that it can soften. This is the transformative power of loving kindness. It doesn't ask you to change your circumstances. It simply asks you to shift the way you relate to yourself and the world, building a compassionate relationship with yourself. For many of us, the idea of compassion can be confusing. We often equate it with weakness or self-sacrifice, believing that if we are too kind to ourselves, we will become selfish or lazy. We fear that setting boundaries or taking time for ourselves will lead to others taking advantage of us. But true compassion is not about allowing ourselves to be walked over. It is about finding a healthy balance between caring for others and caring for ourselves. Learning to be kind to ourselves, to show ourselves the same compassion we so willingly offer others, is perhaps the most important lesson in overcoming burnout. For so long, we have been taught to push through, to ignore our limits, to sacrifice our well-being for the sake of others or our goals. But in the process, we have forgotten that we are not machines. We are human beings with needs, desires, and emotions that deserve to be honored. At the core of loving kindness is the belief that we are worthy of love simply because we exist. We do not have to prove our worth, nor do we have to earn our love. It is inherent in who we are. But for many of us, especially those who have been conditioned to be caregivers or performers, accepting this truth can be difficult. We may feel guilty when we prioritize our needs over others, or we may feel undeserving of rest when so many around us need help. But true compassion requires us to set boundaries. It requires us to recognize that in order to truly give to others, we must first fill our own cup. When we continually give without replenishing ourselves, we are left empty. The kindness we offer to others becomes tainted with exhaustion, bitterness, and resentment. By learning to care for ourselves with the same tenderness we offer others, we begin to restore balance to our lives. Storytelling element. I remember a time when I was overwhelmed by the weight of everyone else's needs. I was constantly putting others first, family, friends, coworkers, and neglecting my own needs for rest, for space, for emotional care. I believed that to be a good person, I had to always give, always help, always be present. But as time went on, I felt myself growing resentful, fatigued, and emotionally distant. I was giving so much that I had nothing left to give. It was in this moment of exhaustion that I began to explore the practice of loving kindness. At first, it felt strange to offer myself phrases of kindness. "May I be happy," I whispered, almost as if the words didn't belong to me. "May I be safe," I repeated, unsure if I deserved the safety I sought. But over time, something began to shift. I started to feel more at peace with myself, more accepting of my limitations. I learned to set boundaries, not as a form of rejection, but as a way to protect my energy, to protect my heart. Through this practice, I realized that I could love others more deeply when I loved myself first. That self-love wasn't selfish. It was a form of self-respect. By acknowledging my own needs, I could give from a place of fullness, not depletion. And in doing so, I discovered a deeper connection to both myself and to those around me. The practice of loving kindness is not a quick fix, nor is it a one-time remedy for burnout. It is a lifelong practice, one that requires patience, persistence, and gentleness. But its rewards are immense. Through metta, we learn to reconnect with the core of who we are, a being worthy of love, worthy of care, worthy of rest. And in that reconnection, we find the peace we have been searching for all along. By cultivating a compassionate relationship with ourselves, we begin to create the space for true healing. We stop seeing rest as a luxury or a reward, but as an essential part of living a balanced, fulfilling life. We stop sacrificing our well-being for the sake of others, and instead we learn to give from a place of strength, of clarity, of presence. And so the journey toward healing continues, not by doing more but by being more, by being present, by being kind, by being compassionate not just to others but to ourselves. Through this practice, we come to understand that peace is not something we earn or achieve. It is something we remember, something that has always been within us, waiting to be discovered. By offering yourself kindness, you are not abandoning others. You are simply giving them the best version of yourself. You are creating a foundation of love and balance from which you can give freely, without guilt or resentment. It is in this space of loving kindness that true healing begins, and it is here that you will find the strength to move forward, no longer burdened by burnout, but lightened by love. The modern world is a constant buzz of noise, activity, and distractions. We are taught that to achieve success, we must do more work, more tasks, more social obligations, more everything. But somewhere along the way, this mentality has led us to exhaustion. The constant push for more leaves us drained, disconnected, and burned out. We find ourselves stuck in an endless cycle of overcommitment, constantly filling our schedules, but never feeling truly fulfilled. What if the path to healing burnout doesn't lie in adding more to our lives, but in letting go of the things that no longer serve us? What if reclaiming our energy and presence begins with embracing the art of renunciation, letting go of what weighs us down, emotionally and mentally? Renunciation and the art of letting go. Renunciation is often misunderstood. It's not about giving up everything we love or living a life of deprivation. Instead, it's about releasing the attachments to things that no longer contribute to our well-being. It's about recognizing that not everything in our life deserves our time, energy, or attention. The art of letting go is a crucial practice in Buddhism, one that teaches us to detach from the things, people, and habits that drain us, so that we can create space for what truly nourishes us. Burnout is not caused by too much work or too many responsibilities. It's caused by holding onto the wrong things. We often find ourselves exhausted not because we have too much to do, but because we are carrying unnecessary emotional baggage. We carry the weight of other people's expectations, the guilt of saying no, the pressure of trying to please everyone, and the fear of missing out. The more we accumulate these burdens, the more disconnected we become from our true selves. We lose touch with what is truly important, and in the process, we lose our energy, our presence, and our peace. The antidote to this is renunciation, not a rejection of all things, but a conscious letting go of what is no longer aligned with our values and goals. Creative exercise. Take a moment and reflect on your life. What are the commitments, obligations, and responsibilities that drain you? What are the things, people, or activities that you feel obligated to give your time and energy to, but that leave you feeling empty, exhausted, or resentful? Write them down. Now, ask yourself, how would it feel to let go of just one of these things? What would it be like to release the need to say yes to every request, to stop filling every moment of your time with things that don't serve you? Imagine the space that would open up in your life if you let go of the emotional weight of these commitments. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning your responsibilities. It means choosing what is truly worth your energy and being honest with yourself about what is not. It's about freeing yourself from the mental clutter that keeps you stuck in a cycle of doing without being. As you begin to release what drains you, you create room for the things that truly nurture your soul, and in doing so, you reclaim your energy and your presence. The importance of space and silence. In a world filled with constant noise, from the constant pinging of notifications to the never-ending demands of work and social life, it's easy to forget the power of silence. We are often so caught up in the busyness of life that we neglect to give ourselves the space we need to simply be. But silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of peace. It is the stillness that allows us to reconnect with ourselves, to listen to our own thoughts, and to rest deeply in the moment. Creating moments of silence in our lives is one of the most powerful tools for healing burnout. Silence provides the emotional space we need to process our thoughts, recharge our energy, and restore our inner balance. It's in these quiet moments that we are able to hear the whispers of our true needs, our desires, and our inner wisdom. Without this space, we are constantly overwhelmed by the noise of the world, unable to hear our own voice beneath the cacophony. When we embrace silence, we stop running on autopilot. We stop filling every moment with activity and distraction. Instead, we give ourselves permission to rest, to reflect, and to simply exist without the pressure to perform or achieve. This is where true rejuvenation happens, not in the hustle and grind, but in the stillness between the doing. Real-life example. I remember a time when I felt completely drained. My days were filled with work, meetings, and constant notifications from social media and emails. I was living in a constant state of doing, but it felt like nothing I was doing was truly nourishing me. It wasn't until I decided to spend a whole day without my phone, without social media, and without any work-related commitments that I realized how much I had been missing. The first few hours were uncomfortable. I was used to being plugged in, to checking my notifications every few minutes. But as the day went on, I began to feel the weight lifting off my shoulders. I spent time walking in nature, reading a book I had been meaning to read, and simply being present with myself. By the end of the day, I felt lighter, more connected to my thoughts, and more at peace than I had in weeks. This experience taught me the power of silence and space. When we disconnect from the constant barrage of external noise, we give ourselves the gift of internal clarity. The world may continue to spin around us, but we can find peace in the stillness we create. And it's in this stillness that our energy is restored, our focus sharpened, and our sense of self reawakened. The gift of presence. Reclaiming our energy and presence is not just about doing less. It's about being more. It's about reconnecting with the essence of who we are beneath all the roles and responsibilities we've taken on. When we give ourselves permission to let go of what doesn't serve us, and when we embrace the silence that allows us to rest and recharge, we create the conditions for true healing. Presence is not about being constantly busy or productive. It's about being fully engaged in whatever we are doing, without distraction, without guilt, and without the need for external validation. It's about finding joy in the small moments, in the act of simply being alive and aware. By learning to let go and create space for silence, we can reclaim the energy and presence that burnout has stolen from us. And in doing so, we rediscover the peace that has always been within us, waiting to be acknowledged and embraced. The journey to reclaiming your energy and presence is not a quick fix. It is a process of unlearning old habits, of creating space for what truly nourishes you, and of honoring the silence that allows you to reconnect with your deepest self. When you let go of the unnecessary and make space for the essential, you will find that peace is not something to be chased. It is something that arises naturally when you create the space for it to exist. In our quest for happiness, comfort, and success, we often view suffering as the enemy. We avoid it, fear it, and do everything in our power to escape its grip. But what if suffering wasn't something to flee from? What if it was an essential part of life, a teacher that could help us grow, evolve, and ultimately find peace? In Buddhism, suffering, referred to as dukkha, is not a negative force to be avoided at all costs, but rather a profound aspect of the human experience that can teach us valuable lessons. It is through suffering that we begin to understand the impermanence of life, the nature of our desires, and the limitations of our attachments. Instead of running away from it, we are invited to face it, to explore it, and to learn from it. Understanding dukkha isn't about resigning ourselves to a life of pain and hardship. Rather, it is about recognizing that suffering is not an anomaly in our lives, but an intrinsic part of the human condition. It arises from the very nature of existence. Our attachment to things that are fleeting, our resistance to change, and our desire for control in a world that is inherently uncertain. Understanding suffering and its role. In Buddhism, dukkha is often translated as suffering, But this term encompasses much more than just physical pain or emotional distress. Dukkha refers to the dissatisfaction, discomfort, and unease that arises from the impermanent nature of life. It is the feeling that no matter what we achieve or possess, something is always missing, something is always out of reach. It's the nagging sense that we are incomplete, that we are constantly striving for something we cannot fully grasp. At first glance, dukkha may seem like something to be avoided at all costs, but when we truly understand it, we realize that it is not something to be feared, but rather something to be understood. Our suffering has a purpose. It shows us where we are attached, where we are clinging to things that cannot provide lasting satisfaction. It points us to the places in our lives where we are out of alignment with our true nature, where we are living in a way that creates unnecessary pain and distress. Rather than trying to eliminate suffering entirely, the goal of Buddhism is to transform our relationship with it. We do not seek to run from suffering, but to embrace it with understanding and compassion. By acknowledging our suffering, we are able to learn from it, to see it as a reflection of the impermanent and interconnected nature of all things. The reality of suffering teaches us humility. It reminds us that life is not always going to be easy, and that there are limits to what we can control. In facing suffering with an open heart, we can begin to cultivate a deeper sense of acceptance and peace. We stop fighting against life's inevitable challenges and instead learn to flow with them, finding meaning and growth in the process. Deep reflection, learning from discomfort. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Think about the times when you've experienced discomfort, whether it was physical, emotional, or spiritual. It might have been a difficult breakup, a period of intense stress at work, or a personal crisis that left you feeling lost and alone. In these moments, suffering felt overwhelming, unbearable even. But as time passed, you may have realized that those moments of discomfort brought something valuable into your life. It's in the depths of suffering that we often find our greatest growth. It is in the times when we are pushed to our limits that we discover what we are truly capable of. We learn resilience. We learn patience. We learn the importance of letting go of things that no longer serve us. And in doing so, we come to understand that suffering, while painful, is not a sign of weakness. It is an opportunity for transformation. Reflecting on your past moments of discomfort, can you pinpoint the lessons you've learned from them? Perhaps a difficult time in your life taught you the importance of self-compassion, or maybe it showed you the need to slow down and take better care of your mental and physical health. These lessons are not just random. They are the wisdom that comes from embracing suffering, not as something to be avoided, but as something to be understood and integrated into our lives. As you reflect, you may begin to see that your suffering has shaped you in ways that have made you stronger, more compassionate, and more aligned with your true self. The very things that once seemed like obstacles were actually stepping stones on your journey toward greater awareness and peace. Buddhist wisdom, true peace comes from within. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is that true peace does not come from external circumstances, but from within. This is perhaps the hardest truth to accept in a world that constantly tells us that happiness is something to be achieved through success, wealth, or recognition. We are taught to seek validation from others, to chase after things that we believe will make us happy. But the more we chase external validation, the further we drift from the peace we truly desire. Burnout often arises from this very pursuit. The endless striving for approval, for more achievement, for more recognition. We push ourselves to the brink, thinking that if we can just do enough, be enough, then we will finally feel worthy and at peace. But this cycle is never-ending. No matter how much we accomplish, it is never enough, because the root of our suffering lies in our attachment to external validation. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that peace comes when we stop looking outside of ourselves for approval and start cultivating it within. When we let go of the need to prove our worth to others and embrace the truth that we are already enough, we begin to experience a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on anything external. This peace is not fleeting. It is constant, unshakable and ever-present, waiting for us to recognize it. The path to inner peace involves letting go of our attachments to things that cannot provide lasting fulfillment. It means turning inward, developing a deep sense of self-compassion, and learning to trust that we are enough, just as we are. This is not an easy task. It requires a radical shift in perspective, from seeking validation from the outside world to finding contentment within ourselves. When we stop chasing external validation, we reclaim our energy and our presence. We are no longer driven by the need to do more, be more, or prove ourselves. Instead, we learn to simply be. We allow ourselves to rest, to recharge, and to reconnect with the essence of who we are. In doing so, we discover that true peace is not something we have to earn. It is something we can return to at any moment, simply by turning inward and embracing our own worth. Conclusion: embracing suffering as a teacher. Suffering, as difficult as it may be, is not the enemy. It is a teacher, a guide on the path to deeper understanding and inner peace. When we embrace the reality of suffering, rather than running from it, we open ourselves up to the lessons it offers. We learn about our attachments, our desires, and the fleeting nature of the things we chase. We discover that peace is not something to be sought outside of ourselves, but something that exists within, waiting for us to embrace it. Burnout often arises from our relentless pursuit of external validation, and the key to healing lies in recognizing that true peace comes from within. By letting go of our attachments to the outside world and turning inward, we can reclaim our energy, our presence, and our peace. Through this process, we not only heal from burnout, but we also grow in wisdom, compassion, and self-awareness. So, the next time you face discomfort or suffering, remember that it is not something to fear or avoid. It is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to return to the stillness that is always available within you. In the pursuit of success, we often find ourselves caught in a never-ending cycle. It's a cycle that we're born into, one that is perpetuated by the expectations we place on ourselves and those imposed by society. This cycle, known in Buddhism as samsara, is the ongoing loop of striving, desiring, and chasing after something that promises fulfillment, only to realize that the fulfillment is always just out of reach. It is the constant pursuit of more money, more recognition, more success, without ever finding the peace that we long for. The concept of samsara is central to Buddhist philosophy and describes the endless cycle of suffering that arises from attachment and desire. The cycle begins with craving something external, believing that acquiring it will bring us happiness and fulfillment. But as soon as we attain what we desire, we realize that the satisfaction is temporary. So we strive again, setting our sights on the next goal, the next achievement, the next possession. And this cycle repeats over and over, never allowing us to break free from the constant feeling of dissatisfaction. The concept of samsara and emotional exhaustion. The concept of samsara is not just about physical suffering, but emotional exhaustion as well. In our modern world, the cycle manifests as a relentless pursuit of external success, often at the cost of our well-being. We chase after achievements, promotions, material possessions, and recognition, believing that each new accomplishment will finally bring us the peace and happiness we seek. But despite our best efforts, we are left feeling empty, tired, and disconnected. It's as though no matter how much we gain, it is never enough. This is the essence of burnout, the exhaustion that comes from striving without ever reaching a place of true contentment. Many of us have found ourselves on this hamster wheel, running faster and faster, convinced that if we can just accomplish more, we'll feel fulfilled. But this constant striving, without the grounding of inner peace, only serves to drain us further. It is the cycle of samsara in action, an endless pursuit of external success that does nothing to nourish the soul. I remember a time in my life when I was caught in this cycle. I was chasing after the approval of others, the accolades, the promotions, the material success that I believed would make me feel worthy. I poured every ounce of my energy into achieving these external markers of success, thinking that once I reached them, I would finally feel at peace. But the closer I got to my goals, the more distant peace seemed. I would achieve one thing, only to feel empty and immediately begin chasing the next. The satisfaction of accomplishment was always fleeting, and the exhaustion that followed was constant. In that moment, I realized that I had become trapped in samsara, a cycle of striving that led nowhere. I had been looking outside of myself for fulfillment, not realizing that true peace does not come from external success, but from within. The constant pursuit of more had drained me, leaving me disconnected from my own heart and soul. Personal story: chasing external success without inner peace. One of the most powerful lessons I learned during this time was that external success, no matter how much I achieved, was never going to bring me the peace I craved. I had spent years chasing after the idea of success, believing that it would fill the emptiness inside me. But every time I reached a new milestone, I felt a momentary rush of satisfaction, only to be replaced by a deeper sense of dissatisfaction. I found myself looking at others around me, comparing their achievements to mine, wondering if I was truly successful. No matter how much I accomplished, there was always someone ahead of me, someone with more. The race never ended, and the more I chased, the more exhausted I became. It wasn't until I took a step back and began to examine my inner life that I realized the root of my suffering. I was trapped in a cycle of external validation, constantly seeking approval, recognition, and success as a way to feel worthy. But I was forgetting the most important thing: my own worth. I was so focused on achieving something outside of myself that I neglected to nurture the peace that was already within me. The turning point came when I realized that no amount of external success could bring me the peace I was searching for. True fulfillment came from within, not from accomplishments or accolades. And that's when I began to break free from the cycle of samsara. I stopped chasing after things that were outside of me, and instead, I started focusing on cultivating peace, love, and acceptance within my own heart. This shift didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process of learning to let go of the need for external validation and instead focus on what truly mattered: my own inner peace and well-being. I began to embrace the idea that I was enough, just as I was, without needing to prove myself through accomplishments or recognition. It was a liberating experience, one that allowed me to step off the hamster wheel of endless striving and find a sense of stillness within myself. Awakening to the freedom of non-attachment. The concept of non-attachment is at the heart of Buddhist philosophy, and it holds the key to breaking free from samsara, the cycle of endless striving and burnout. Non-attachment doesn't mean we stop caring about our goals or our achievements. Rather, it means that we let go of the need for them to define us or provide us with lasting happiness. Non-attachment is about releasing the grip of desire and expectation, and finding peace in the present moment, regardless of what we have or haven't achieved. When we let go of our attachment to outcomes, we release the pressure that drives us toward burnout. We stop measuring our worth by what we accomplish or by how others perceive us. Instead, we begin to focus on the process, not the result. We learn to find joy in the journey rather than in the destination. Non-attachment also frees us from the fear of failure. When we are attached to an outcome, failure becomes something to fear, something that threatens our sense of self-worth. But when we let go of that attachment, we can embrace failure as a natural part of the learning process. We no longer see failure as a reflection of who we are, but simply as a stepping stone toward growth and wisdom. The practice of non-attachment is liberating. It allows us to engage fully with life, to pursue our goals with passion and commitment, without being shackled by the need for approval or success. We become free to live authentically, without the weight of expectation hanging over us. In this freedom, we find the peace that has always been within us, waiting to be discovered. The cycle of striving and burnout, the cycle of samsara, the endless striving for something outside of ourselves, is at the root of emotional burnout. It is the belief that we must constantly chase after more, that our happiness and fulfillment are dependent on external circumstances. But when we begin to embrace the freedom of non-attachment, we break free from this cycle. We stop chasing after things that don't bring us lasting peace, and instead, we learn to cultivate peace within ourselves. When we let go of our attachment to success, to validation, and to external outcomes, we are able to reconnect with our true nature. We find that we are worthy, not because of what we do, but because of who we are. In this realization, we begin to heal from burnout. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves, to strive endlessly, to push ourselves to the brink. We learn to honor ourselves, to listen to our needs, and to find balance between doing and being. In this space of non-attachment, we discover the peace that has always been available to us. We let go of the cycle of samsara, the never-ending chase, and step into a life of freedom, presence, and inner peace. Breaking free from samsara is a journey of self-discovery, of learning to let go of the things that drain us and embracing the freedom that comes from non-attachment. It's about shifting from a mindset of endless striving to one of presence and acceptance. By releasing our attachment to outcomes, we reclaim our energy, our peace, and our true sense of self. The journey is not always easy, but it is one of profound transformation, a journey that leads to the freedom and fulfillment we have been searching for all along. In our pursuit of happiness and stability, we often fall victim to the desire for permanence. We long for things, relationships, and experiences to remain unchanged, believing that if we can only secure them, we will have found true peace. But the reality is far different. Life is in a constant state of flux, and everything, no matter how stable it may seem, will eventually change. This is the truth of impermanence, a concept deeply embedded in Buddhist philosophy, and it holds the key to releasing our attachments and finding lasting peace. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent, that all things are subject to change. From the smallest particles of matter to the vast expanse of the universe, nothing remains fixed. This includes our thoughts, our emotions, and even the most cherished aspects of our lives. Impermanence is not just a concept, it is a universal truth that governs the nature of existence. And it is through the acceptance of this truth that we can find true peace. The role of impermanence in healing. At first glance, the concept of impermanence may seem unsettling. After all, if everything is fleeting, then how can we find stability or peace? But it is precisely through the acceptance of impermanence that we are able to let go of our attachment to things, people, and experiences. When we understand that nothing lasts forever, we stop clinging to the idea that our happiness must come from external circumstances that are beyond our control. Impermanence teaches us to let go. It shows us that everything is in a constant state of becoming, and that nothing is permanent, neither our joy nor our suffering. This understanding is crucial in the process of healing, particularly when we face difficult or painful moments. When we accept that even our pain is impermanent, we are able to face it without fear, without trying to escape it or resist it. We realize that just as joy comes and goes, so too will our sorrow and struggles. By embracing impermanence, we can cultivate a deep sense of detachment, not in the sense of indifference, but in the sense of freedom. We stop being controlled by the fear of loss, the anxiety that arises from our attachment to things that are bound to change. Instead, we learn to appreciate the present moment for what it is, without clinging to it or trying to make it last forever. We become fully present in the here and now, knowing that each moment, no matter how fleeting, is precious. Real-life example. Consider the story of a woman who had spent years building her career, striving for success, and pouring her heart into her work. She had invested so much of her identity in her job that when she was suddenly laid off, she felt as though her world was collapsing. For weeks, she struggled with feelings of worthlessness and loss. She couldn't understand how something she had worked so hard for could disappear in an instant. But over time, she began to reflect on the impermanence of life. She realized that her job, like everything else, was always subject to change. She had attached so much of her sense of self to her work that when it was taken from her, she felt empty. But as she allowed herself to sit with the discomfort of this loss, she also began to recognize something profound. Her sense of self was not tied to her job. It was not tied to any external circumstance. She had been so focused on what was temporary that she had overlooked the unchanging part of herself, the part that is always present, always at peace, no matter what happens in the outside world. This realization allowed her to let go of her attachment to the job and open herself up to new opportunities. She began to see that her happiness didn't depend on the stability of her career, but on her ability to accept change and flow with the rhythm of life. Through the acceptance of impermanence, she was able to heal, reclaim her sense of self, and move forward with a newfound sense of peace. Living with mindful awareness. The acceptance of impermanence is not just a philosophical understanding, it is a practice that we must embody in our daily lives. One of the most powerful ways to do this is through mindful awareness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment, without attachment, and without the need to control or manipulate the experience. It is the practice of observing life as it is, without trying to hold on to it or make it fit our desires. When we live mindfully, we stop resisting the natural flow of life. We stop fighting against the impermanence of our experiences and instead learn to embrace each moment for what it is. Mindfulness helps us cultivate an awareness of the transient nature of everything around us, and it teaches us to appreciate the beauty of the present moment, no matter how fleeting it may be. In the context of emotional healing, mindfulness allows us to confront the discomfort of change without being overwhelmed by it. We learn to sit with our pain, our anxiety, and our joy without becoming attached to any one feeling. We simply observe it, allow it to come and go, and trust that everything is in a constant state of flux. This awareness brings peace, as it frees us from the need to control or hold onto anything, knowing that all things, good or bad, will eventually pass. Actionable tip: to cultivate this awareness, try integrating mindful practices into your daily routine. One simple yet effective practice is mindful breathing. Set aside a few minutes each day to sit quietly and focus on your breath. As you inhale and exhale, observe the sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. Allow any thoughts, feelings, or distractions to arise, but don't engage with them. Simply notice them and let them pass, returning your attention to your breath. Another practice is mindful walking. As you walk, pay attention to the sensations in your body. Feel each step, the movement of your legs, the contact of your feet with the ground. Notice the sounds, the sights, and the smells around you without trying to label or judge them. Simply experience them as they are, without attachment or expectation. Both of these practices help you cultivate a deep sense of presence and awareness, allowing you to connect with the impermanence of each moment. As you become more mindful of the transient nature of life, you begin to let go of the need to hold on to anything. You become more attuned to the flow of life, allowing it to move through you without resistance. The freedom in letting go. In Buddhism, the understanding of impermanence is not just about accepting that things will change, but about embracing change as a natural part of life. This acceptance brings a profound sense of freedom. We no longer have to hold on tightly to our possessions, our relationships, or even our ideas of who we are. We can let go of the need to control, and in doing so, we open ourselves to the beauty and peace that exists in the present moment. By embracing the reality of impermanence, we release the grip of attachment that causes suffering. We stop searching for happiness in external circumstances and begin to cultivate it from within. True peace is not found in the permanence of things. It is found in the ability to be present with what is, knowing that each moment is a unique and fleeting expression of life. When we embrace impermanence, we find that the very act of letting go brings peace. We don't need to hold on to everything we love. We don't need to chase after what we think will bring us happiness. Instead, we learn to accept and appreciate the moment as it is, knowing that everything, good or bad, will pass. In that acceptance, we discover a profound peace that is unshaken by the ebb and flow of life. The practice of mindfulness and the acceptance of impermanence are not just about understanding the nature of life. They are about transforming the way we live. By embracing change, we find freedom from the cycle of attachment and craving that leads to burnout and emotional exhaustion. In doing so, we reclaim our peace and our presence, allowing us to live more fully and with greater joy. In a world that constantly pushes us toward extremes, the concept of balance often seems elusive. We are taught to either push ourselves to the limit in pursuit of success or to indulge in pleasure and comfort in response to stress. But what if true peace, true fulfillment, lies somewhere in between these extremes? What if the path to healing, to sustainable success, to emotional well-being, is not about choosing one side over the other but embracing a balanced approach? This is the wisdom of the middle way. The middle way, a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, teaches us that both extremes, self-denial and indulgence, lead to suffering. The path of excessive self-sacrifice drains us, while the path of excess leads to dissatisfaction and burnout. The middle way encourages us to find a harmonious balance in all aspects of life: work and rest, effort and ease, ambition and contentment. It asks us to approach life with mindfulness and intention, to live in a way that nurtures our body, mind, and spirit without leaning too heavily on any one extreme. The middle way between extremes. In many cultures, we are conditioned to strive for more, to push harder, and to achieve at all costs. This mentality often leads us to the extreme of overwork, where we sacrifice our health, relationships, and peace of mind in pursuit of success. On the other hand, many of us also seek relief from stress through indulgence, whether that be through food, entertainment, or distractions, only to find that these indulgences leave us feeling emptier and more disconnected. Neither of these approaches leads to long-term happiness or peace. The middle way teaches us that balance is not about avoiding effort or pleasure entirely, but about finding a sustainable approach to both. It is not about working endlessly without rest, nor is it about indulging in comfort and escaping responsibility. Instead, it's about discerning when to apply effort and when to ease off, when to act and when to rest, in a way that honors both our physical and emotional needs. This balance requires us to be mindful of our intentions, actions, and energy levels. When we approach life with awareness, we are better able to recognize when we are tipping too far in one direction, whether it's toward overwork or overindulgence, and make the necessary adjustments to bring ourselves back into equilibrium. Practical insight. Take a moment to reflect on your daily routine. How often do you find yourself working through exhaustion, feeling like you have to keep going even when your body is screaming for rest? Or conversely, how often do you indulge in distractions to avoid the discomfort of hard work or responsibilities? Both of these extremes are unsustainable. One leads to burnout, the other leads to disconnection and lack of fulfillment. The middle way asks us to find a balance in our routines. This doesn't mean doing less or more. It means being mindful of what we need in each moment. When we work, we give our full attention and energy to the task at hand. When we rest, we allow ourselves to rest completely without guilt or distraction. In this way, we can prevent burnout by honoring both the need for effort and the need for recovery. Here's a simple exercise you can try. Begin by planning your day with balance in mind. For each task, ask yourself, what is the intention behind this action? Am I working with purpose, or am I simply filling time? When you come to a moment of rest, ask yourself, am I fully allowing myself to rest, or am I distracting myself with mindless activities? This simple reflection can help you identify where you are overcommitting or overindulging, and help you realign your actions with your deeper values. By bringing intention to both your work and rest, You restore balance to your day and your life. Aligning effort with purpose. One of the greatest sources of stress in our lives comes from trying to meet the expectations of others, whether it's society, family, or colleagues. We often measure our success by external standards, the size of our paycheck, the number of hours we work, or the approval of others. But true fulfillment comes not from meeting external expectations, but from aligning our actions with our own values, passions, and purpose. The middle way teaches us that effort should be aligned with purpose. We don't need to constantly prove ourselves or achieve success for the sake of others. Instead, we need to look within and ask, what do I truly value? What is my deeper purpose? When our actions are aligned with these values, work becomes meaningful and rest becomes restorative. We no longer feel trapped in a cycle of striving for external validation, because we are grounded in the knowledge that our worth is not dependent on others' opinions. When we align our effort with purpose, we begin to move from a place of integrity and authenticity. We work not because we have to, but because we want to, because it aligns with our deeper goals. We rest not because we feel guilty, but because we understand the importance of nurturing our energy so that we can continue to pursue our purpose with clarity and focus. Creative exercise. Take a moment to reflect on your current goals, both personal and professional. Ask yourself, are these goals truly aligned with your values and purpose, or have they been shaped by external pressures or expectations? Write down your answers and then reflect on the following questions. What activities or responsibilities in my life feel truly meaningful to me? Which tasks do I do because I feel obligated to meet others' expectations? How can I reframe my actions so that they are aligned with my deeper purpose, rather than driven by external demands? This exercise will help you begin to notice where you are out of alignment and where you may be operating from a place of obligation rather than inspiration. By identifying and honoring your true values, you can shift your energy from striving to living with intention, reducing stress and cultivating a deeper sense of peace. Living with balance, the power of the middle way. The middle way is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It is a practice, a mindset, and a lifestyle that requires ongoing reflection and adjustment. It's about finding the sweet spot between effort and ease, between work and rest, between action and stillness. It's about realizing that balance is not something we achieve once and for all, but something we continually cultivate, moment by moment. When we live according to the middle way, we stop viewing life as a series of battles to win or tasks to complete. We begin to see it as a journey, one where every step is taken with purpose, mindfulness, and alignment with our deepest values. We begin to recognize that true success is not about how much we can accomplish, but about how much we can be present, how much we can be true to ourselves, and how much we can contribute to the world from a place of balance. This is the essence of living the middle way, finding peace not in the extremes, but in the balance between them. And in doing so, we free ourselves from the cycle of burnout and disconnection. We reclaim our energy, our presence, and our purpose. By embracing the wisdom of the middle way, we move from a life of constant striving to one of intentional living. We stop chasing success for its own sake and begin to align our actions with what truly nourishes us. We find peace in the balance between work and rest, effort and ease, striving and being. And in this balance, we discover the lasting fulfillment we've been seeking all along. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us to do more, be more, and achieve more. We are told that success is measured by productivity, by how many tasks we can complete, how many goals we can achieve, how much we can accumulate. In this culture of excess, burnout has become the inevitable byproduct. We stretch ourselves thin, juggling too many responsibilities, prioritizing external validation over internal peace. But what if healing from burnout doesn't require doing more? It requires doing less. What if the path to reclaiming our energy, our peace, and our true self lies in the radical act of simplification. Healing through radical simplification. At the heart of burnout is a life that has become cluttered with commitments, expectations, distractions, and relationships that drain us rather than nourish us. We try to hold on to everything, believing that we need to excel in every area of our lives, that every task must be completed, that every relationship must be maintained. But in doing so, we lose sight of what truly matters. We lose connection with ourselves, with the things that bring us peace, joy, and fulfillment. Healing from burnout begins with simplifying our lives. It's about removing the distractions and unnecessary tasks that keep us busy but don't contribute to our well-being. It's about recognizing which relationships lift us up and which ones drain us, and making the difficult decision to let go of the toxic ones. It's about creating space in our schedules, in our minds, and in our hearts for what truly matters. Creative exercise. Take a moment to reflect on your life and identify what is contributing to your burnout. What are the tasks, commitments, and people that are draining you? What can you simplify or remove? Is there a project you've been working on that no longer serves you, or a relationship that brings more stress than joy? Write these down. Now, think about what you could do with the time, energy, and space you would reclaim by simplifying. How would your life change if you let go of these things? How would your energy shift if you focused only on what nourishes you, what brings you peace and joy? This exercise is about clarity. By simplifying our lives, we create the space necessary to reconnect with ourselves. We remove the noise and distractions so we can hear our inner voice once again. It's through this process of simplification that we return to our true self. Inspirational closing. In the pursuit of success and external achievement, we often forget the importance of presence. We fill our days with tasks and obligations, believing that doing more will bring us happiness. But true peace, true fulfillment, comes not from doing more but from doing less, but with more presence, more attention, and more intention. Imagine, for a moment, what your life would look like if you approached each day with full presence. What if you gave your full attention to each moment, fully immersed in the experience, rather than constantly rushing to the next task? What if you allowed yourself the grace to slow down, to breathe, to simply be? Peace does not come from filling every moment with activity. It comes from being fully engaged in the present moment, from savoring the experiences that bring us joy, from nurturing our relationships, and from giving ourselves the space to rest and rejuvenate. It comes from doing less but doing it with greater focus, greater intention, and greater presence. So, as you move forward on your journey, remember this: the antidote to burnout is not more activity, it's more presence. It's the willingness to simplify, to let go of what doesn't serve you, and to fully engage with what brings you peace and fulfillment. When you learn to embrace stillness, to trust your journey, and to honor your inner needs, you will discover that the rest you seek is already within you. Final message. In a world that constantly demands more from us, it's easy to forget the simple truth that we are worthy of rest, peace, and balance. You are worthy of rest, not because you've earned it through hard work, but because you are human. You are worthy of peace, not because you've achieved everything on your to-do list, but because your soul craves stillness. You are worthy of honoring your inner needs, not because you have accomplished more than others, but because you deserve to live a life that nourishes you from the inside out. The journey to healing is not about pushing harder, working longer, or achieving more. It's about returning to yourself, simplifying your life, letting go of unnecessary stress and distractions, and creating space for what truly matters. It's about learning to be present with each moment, trusting that you don't need to constantly prove your worth through what you do. You are enough, just as you are. As you move forward, remember that peace doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less but with more presence. It comes from slowing down, tuning in, and allowing yourself to rest. You have the power to reclaim your energy, your peace, and your true self. And when you do, you will find that the life you've been searching for was always within you, waiting for you to return to it. So, take a deep breath. Let go of the burdens that weigh you down. Simplify, trust your journey, and remember that you are worthy of rest, worthy of peace, and worthy of the life that nourishes you from the inside out. In the quest for success, happiness, and personal fulfillment, many of us find ourselves spiraling deeper into burnout, exhaustion, and disillusionment. We chase after external achievements, believing that if we could only reach the next milestone, whether it's a promotion, a new house, or a perfect relationship, then and only then would we find peace. But the truth is, the more we chase, the further peace seems to slip from our grasp. The journey through burnout, as explored in the earlier parts of this story, is not just about the fatigue we experience physically. It's about the deeper exhaustion we feel within, the emotional and mental toll that comes from constantly striving and never quite feeling whole. It's about the constant pressure to do more, to be more, to fulfill the demands placed upon us, often at the cost of our health, our relationships, and most importantly, our inner peace. But what if the answer to burnout isn't in doing more, but in doing less? What if healing comes not from pushing harder, but from simplifying, from embracing the stillness within, and from letting go of what no longer serves us? This is where the wisdom of Buddhism offers us profound insights. From the concept of dukkha, or suffering, to the practice of mindfulness, non-attachment, and the middle way, we have explored how understanding the impermanence of life and embracing simplicity can lead to healing and inner peace. But perhaps the most powerful lesson is this: true peace is not something we find by chasing after external validation, but by reconnecting with ourselves, simplifying our lives, and embracing each moment as it is. We began by confronting the nature of burnout. We realized that it is not caused solely by overwork, but by the misalignment between our inner needs and the external demands we place on ourselves. The constant pressure to achieve, to do more, to be more, can create a sense of emptiness and exhaustion, leaving us disconnected from our true selves. By recognizing the underlying causes of burnout and understanding that true peace comes from within, we began to see how we could step off the hamster wheel of endless striving and start living a more meaningful and balanced life. Next, we explored the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth, restlessness, and doubt, which are the mental and emotional obstacles that prevent us from experiencing true peace. These hindrances arise when we are caught in the cycle of craving and attachment, when we seek external comfort or approval rather than cultivating peace within. By learning to recognize these hindrances, we can begin to break free from the cycle of striving and find a more peaceful and balanced approach to life. We then delved into the transformative power of loving-kindness meditation, or metta. This practice teaches us to offer compassion not only to others but to ourselves, especially in moments of burnout. It is through loving kindness that we begin to heal the wounds of emotional exhaustion, replacing judgment and self-criticism with acceptance and understanding. Loving kindness invites us to show up for ourselves in the same way we would for a dear friend, with patience, kindness, and compassion. It is through this practice that we learn to rest, to forgive, and to embrace our own humanity. As we journeyed further, we learned the art of renunciation and non-attachment. The idea that we must let go of what no longer serves us is a powerful lesson in reclaiming our energy and presence. By letting go of unnecessary commitments, toxic relationships, and societal expectations, we create the space for what truly nourishes us. Through mindfulness and presence, we stop chasing after fleeting goals and begin to appreciate the present moment for what it is, enough just as it is. The concept of impermanence was another key insight. Understanding that everything is temporary, the good and the bad, allows us to release our attachment to outcomes and expectations. Life flows, constantly changing, and when we accept this truth, we stop fighting against it. Instead of resisting discomfort or clinging to happiness, we embrace both with open hearts, knowing that all things will pass in their time. This understanding frees us from the anxiety of control and gives us the peace to simply be. In the end, we explored the middle way, the balance between extremes. We learned that burnout is not caused by overwork alone, but by the imbalance between effort and rest, between doing and being. The middle way teaches us that true peace comes from finding harmony in all areas of life, from our work, our relationships, and our inner life. By aligning our efforts with our deeper values, rather than with societal expectations, we reclaim our energy and find the balance that allows us to thrive without exhausting ourselves. The lesson: simplify and return to your true self. The profound lesson that emerges from this exploration is clear. The key to overcoming burnout and finding peace lies in radical simplification. It is about removing the distractions and unnecessary tasks that drain us and focusing on what truly nourishes us. We must simplify our lives by letting go of attachments, unnecessary commitments, and the constant striving for external validation. This process of simplification is not about deprivation. It's about creating the space to reconnect with what really matters, our inner selves, our peace, and our true purpose. It's about embracing stillness, trust, and self-compassion. By simplifying our routines, letting go of toxic relationships, and aligning our actions with our deeper values, we can heal from the exhaustion that comes from striving and begin to live a more balanced, meaningful life. Applying the lesson in our lives. So how can we apply these lessons in our daily lives? Embrace the present moment. Begin by practicing mindfulness in each moment. Instead of rushing through tasks or filling every moment with distractions, try to be fully present. Focus on your breath, the sensations in your body, and the emotions that arise in each moment. By doing so, you will begin to reconnect with the peace that is always within you. Simplify your commitments. Take a step back and evaluate the commitments in your life. What tasks, relationships, or activities are draining your energy without contributing to your well-being? Consider letting go of those that no longer serve you. Give yourself permission to say no, to focus on what truly nourishes you, and to prioritize rest and self-care. Practice loving kindness. Incorporate loving kindness meditation into your daily routine. Begin with yourself. Offer yourself the same compassion, understanding, and forgiveness that you would offer to a loved one. This practice will help heal the emotional wounds of burnout and restore balance to your life. Release attachments. Let go of your attachment to outcomes, expectations, and external validation. Recognize that your worth does not depend on what you achieve or how others perceive you. Find contentment in the present moment and trust that peace and fulfillment come from within. Find balance in work and rest. Recognize the importance of balance in your daily life. Don't push yourself to work constantly without rest, and don't overindulge in distractions to avoid the discomfort of responsibilities. Instead, create a rhythm that allows for both effort and ease, work and relaxation. By aligning your actions with your values and honoring your need for rest, you will find the energy and presence to thrive without burnout. Your thoughts and perspective. As you reflect on this journey, what are your thoughts on the lessons shared here? Do you find yourself caught in the cycle of striving and burnout, or have you already begun to embrace the practice of simplification and mindfulness? How do you plan to integrate these lessons into your life moving forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share your insights and experiences in the comments below. Let's create a space for open conversation and mutual learning. Your perspective could inspire others who are on the same path. And if you found value in this content, please consider subscribing to Buddhism in every moment. Your support helps us create more meaningful content and continue sharing these powerful teachings with you. Together, we can continue to explore the path of peace, mindfulness, and inner freedom. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May you find the balance, peace, and clarity that you seek.